Joining me on the pod today, I have Beth, who is here to talk all about her journey with slow transit constipation, mental health, and living with a stoma. Now, if you're like me and have no idea what that first bit means, don't worry, we have an expert here who will explain it all. But thanks so much, Beth, for wanting to come on and share this story. I understand that Paloma, the stoma, which we'll give a lot of limelight to today, is a relatively new addition in your life. So we will talk all about that and basically how you adjust to a stoma. Now, I believe you're only 28 as well. That's quite a big life change as well to go through in your 20s. So thank you so much. We haven't had someone on the pod yet that has shared living life with a stoma and everything that comes with that. So really looking forward to hearing your story. And just for the audience, the listeners, Beth has just been a star today because honestly, I've given her the most chaotic day ever. We're already 2 hours late to the episode. So I'm just going to go straight over to Beth. And yeah, thank you so much for being patient with me, first of all, because I promise it's not usually this chaotic. And where do we actually begin with your story? So do you want to go literally from the start? Was the slow transit constipation something you were diagnosed with when you were a child? Take me from the beginning.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. I will try not to chew your ear off.
Please do. Please do.
So, my journey with slow transit constipation started when I was a child. However, I didn't actually know it was slow transit constipation. When you go to the doctors as a child and you can't go to the toilet, it's very much a case of, oh, well, they're a bit constipated, let's give them some Fibergel, and off you pop. So I did that and it worked and it was fine. And then I got to university, actually. I got to moved away from home at 18. And my body just wasn't having it. I wasn't able to go to the toilet. I was in a lot of pain. I was really bloated. And I went to my GP, who referred me to a gastroenterologist. Had loads and loads of tests to rule out various different things, inflammatory bowel disease, cancer, and various other things. And it transpired that I have slow transit constipation, as well as having some colorectal abnormalities as well. So effectively, when I eat, it takes a really long time. It's slow transit. It takes a really long time to get to the end goal, which is obviously your rectum. For me, everything was sort of getting to the bottom and then it was getting stuck. So not only was it taking me ages to be able to open my bowels, it was actually really difficult to then actually get it out, to put it bluntly. So tried various different methods of treatment. So I tried biofeedback therapy, which is basically where it's about pelvic floor retraining. So they're effectively teaching you how to go to the toilet. So I tried that twice. I tried bowel washouts, various different laxatives, changes in diet. I was actually referred for a sacral nerve stimulator, which is it's like a battery that goes in your back and it sends electric shocks to the rectum. Yeah,
intense.
So I was really intense. So I was referred for that, but I was actually declined because the hospital that they referred me to only offered it for incontinence, not for constipation. So I'd been seen intermittently by the surgeons at this point as well. So I'd had the word stoma had been mentioned. But my local consultant was very reluctant to give it, which is fair enough, because with slow transit it is actually really difficult to manage even with a stoma. So I then got referred to the hospital I'm under now, and I was having biofeedback with them for a year and a half on the phone because of COVID. And then I saw my consultant. I met him for the first time. And he basically said, "You're going to go into kidney failure. Your body is really not very happy with you, and the laxatives basically just stopped working." So I went onto a liquid diet and various other things. I was off work for ages, and I just was really poorly. It was just awful. So he said, "You need to have a stoma and you need to have it soon." So 4 months later, I was introduced to Paloma, which was actually a really straightforward surgery. Um, it was obviously strange waking up with a bag attached to you, and when you have it done, it's they give you like a clear bag, so you can see everything. So that was weird. I work in healthcare, so I'm used to seeing stomas, but I'm not used to seeing brand new ones. I'm used to seeing healed ones that don't have any stitches, and ones that don't look, quite so fresh. So yeah, it was an interesting experience. I did have complications afterwards. My bowel decided that it wanted to completely paralyse, so I was very, very sick.
Yeah.
But after that, touch wood, we've been okay. There's a few other issues in the kind of in the motion at the moment, and I will need to have more surgery, but I'm not going to go into that now because otherwise we really will be here all day.
So what age did it all start then when you started suffering? Was it quite a young child, or do you
I
remember?
think I must have been about 10. I think it was kind of like prepubescent.
Yeah.
I think I was about 10. Um, and I had the fibre gel, which is a really mild laxative, and that worked for me. It was fine. And then as I got older, we had to try different laxatives and change them up, and then increase them, and then they put me on more and more and more and more and more. And then it got to the point that by the time I had the surgery, it was just like, it was inhumane. The
Yeah.
amount I was taking, it was awful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't miss that at all.
Did it affect your school life and kind of, education, kind of being a young person?
It didn't affect me in like primary and secondary school at all, really, but it did affect me at university. So the last 11 years of my life have been very much about poo. that's that's all it feels like. I feel like the last 11 years of my life I've just talked about poo every single day, which is fine. And I do feel now like that I've got so much relief from having the stoma. Like, I do feel a lot better.
Yeah.
But it did it's impacted my work, and it's impacted my education in the latter years.
No, of course. So, with the diagnosis of slow transit constipation, how long did that actually take you to get that formal diagnosis? Do you feel like it took quite a long time for them to realise what was going on?
So I was diagnosed at 18 or 19. It was either 18 or 19. Um, and from referral to gastro to having the transit study, it was less than a year, I think. So the transit study, I've had twice or three times, twice, I think. And you basically swallow a capsule, and in that capsule, well, they give you more than one capsule. In the capsules, there's a magnet, but there's various different magnets, and you swallow them. So you have like one on day 0, they call it, 1 or 2, and then you have 1 or 2 the next day, and then 1 or 2 the next day. And basically, they then do an X-ray of your abdomen to see if there's any markers left. And on both occasions, I had all of the markers were still between here and my rectum. So none of them had passed through, because obviously I wasn't going to the toilet. So the first test I had was across 6 days, and the second test I had was across 3 days. It's really odd, but both results were the same. So I'd say from referral to diagnosis, it was less than a year.
And before, we'll talk obviously about stoma, but before that, what sort of surgeries and procedures did you have to kind of go through before you've obviously got the stoma? Is it endless?
Oh my God, I've actually got a list. It is ridiculous.
Go on, give me the
And
list.
unfortunately, yeah, let me get the list up, because it is ridiculous. So I have had, so in 2015 I had a transit study and a colonoscopy. I had an MRI proctogram in 2014, in 2018, and 2021. So that is basically, it's brutal. They inject jelly up your bum, and you have to lay flat in an MRI scanner and push it out. Which for anyone is really hard, right?
Yeah, yeah.
For anyone, it's really hard, but for me, it was just impossible. And that's diagnosed, it's going to sound like double Dutch, but recto-rectal interception. So basically, like, my intestines like go inside each other, which causes like a narrowing. So I have that. And then I had a gastric emptying study, barium enema, 2 endoscopies, biofeedback twice. Obviously, the nervous stimulator referral was declined. I've had a gastrographin enema. I've had the stoma. I've had the stoma revised, and I've had another colonoscopy this year. I think that's it.
Bless you. It's a long list to go through. How do you honestly prep for things like that? And I know, as I keep saying, we will give the limelight to Paloma in a second about everything you've been through with her. But yeah, how do you honestly prep for all those types of things? I know you've mentioned like colonoscopy, endoscopy, which when I've spoken to other people, they're all like, oh my gosh, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. You might have a completely different experience. But yeah, just interested, do you have any advice on what has worked for you in those situations?
So, my advice for endoscopy would be different from my advice for colonoscopy. So, for endoscopy, take everything you can get, including horse tranquilizers. I absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
It was awful. Honestly, I said to somebody the other day, they said they were having it, and I said, I would have colonoscopy every day for the rest of my life over having one
Oh, wow.
endoscopy.
Yeah. Okay, well, that puts
Because
it
I
into
just
perspective.
can't.
Yeah.
I just can't. It is horrible. I hate it. So they give you a numbing spray, and then they can give you sedation. But obviously, the sedation doesn't completely sedate you. And I do remember. I mean, someone's effectively shoving something down your throat. Like, it's just horrible.
Yeah, no thanks.
So with that, take yeah, with that, take everything you possibly can in terms of what sedation they offer you. But obviously, with that, you'd have to have somebody to take you home. Colonoscopy, the prep is rank because you have to obviously drink quite a lot of laxatives before you have it. Even though it's rank, finish it all, because if you don't and you don't empty your bowels, then they won't be able to do it, and you'll have to have it done effectively twice. With that, I would definitely recommend having sedation. My last one I had without sedation because I had to get the train, and I didn't enjoy the experience very much, if I'm honest. Only because it hurt more because I have diversion colitis. That's like another topic to talk about. So because my colon is so ulcerated, not my colon, my rectum is like really inflamed and ulcerated, it was really painful. So obviously in an ideal world that would have been a bit easier, I think, if I'd have had sedation, but we live and we learn. My biggest piece of advice, or not even advice, but like words of wisdom, would be they've seen it all before.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest worry about having any procedure like that is it's embarrassing. They're going to see my bum. What if I shit myself? Sorry, I've just sworn on your
No,
podcast.
go for it. This is the thing, though. It's about being really honest, and it's about breaking down things that people see as taboo, and like talking about poo,
Yeah,
talking about like, being in a room like that and having a procedure, which is quite intrusive, but hopefully just giving people the realization that it is okay. Like, yeah, it's not going to be enjoyable and a pleasant experience, but yeah, like you've said, they have seen it before, and it can save your life.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I do actually dance around in a poo costume. I'm not sure if you've seen
I
it.
love that.
Because I just think, why are we making it such a taboo subject? It doesn't need to be. Everyone poos. We all poo. However you poo is, everyone's different. We all poo. The other thing that I will say actually about procedures is that you can have a chaperone. So quite often you will have there'll be kind of the doctor doing the procedure, and then there'll be nurses kind of with you. And I think every single time I've had something done, someone's held my hand. So, even though you can't have your person of choice with you'll have somebody that can comfort you and be there, and obviously somebody that has seen it all before. So that definitely helps, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, fire away.
Fire away. Well, we'll give Paloma a bit of limelight now. So, how did this all come about? Because obviously, I know you got your diagnosis with the slow transit constipation, and then you've got really poorly. Was having a stoma kind of like the last option for you? Were you kind of told you don't need to have one? Like, yeah, what advice were you given? Because if you didn't have one, where would you be now? I'm assuming still in like horrendous pain. Yeah, she's given me the look that's a no-go. So yeah, what was kind of said to you when the stoma was first discussed?
So the stoma was first discussed when I was diagnosed with slow transit, because I was referred to the surgeons and they said, "Why haven't you got a bag?" And I said, "Because my consultant said no." And they said, "Well, we think you should have one." Anyway, they referred me to another hospital for a second opinion, which then stalled the process. And rightly so. I think you absolutely have to try everything. And I think it is a very, very drastic move to have a stoma formed if you can try other things first. So I was very willing to try other things first, but I was getting very, very fed up of feeling so
Yeah.
rubbish. So when I was finally seen at my hospital, um, I walked in and he said, "What the fuck? What? How?" No, that is basically how he spoke. He was just like, "How are you still standing?" And I was like, "I haven't got a fucking clue." And he said, "Because I actually don't know why they've left you like this. How have you been left for this long?" And I said, "Believe me, I have been shouting from the rooftops." And I said, "Obviously, the care your hospital's given me has been absolutely amazing, but I've still been trying to fight to see different people.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm very aware of the constraints within the NHS and how much of a backlog they have from COVID." So when he asked me what my plan was, what I was taking, his jaw just kept falling, and he was like, "Is that it?" And I was like, "No, I haven't finished yet." And I was and he was like, how? Like, I don't understand. And I was like, "Me neither, because should be physically impossible. I don't know how this is possible, but apparently it is, and apparently you don't combust when you take that many laxatives. It's very strange." And he was like, "Yeah, your kidneys are shit." I was like, "Yeah, I know."
Thank you.
I said, "I'm really puffy." My face was like, I was like a moon. My feet were swollen. I just felt horrendous. And he said, "Yeah, if you don't have this stoma, you'll be on dialysis in a year."
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, "Right, okay, that's a big deal." So I said, "What are we talking kind of time frame?" And he said, "ASAP." So I then phoned the secretary, and they basically said, "Oh yeah, you're going to be in before Christmas." So I saw him at the beginning of November. They were like, "Oh yeah, you'll be in before Christmas." And I was like, "What? Like, really?" And she was like, "Yeah, you're on his urgent list." I was like, "Right, okay." So obviously spoke to my work about it, and they were amazing. They were like, "You do what you've got to do. It's out of your control." Um, and then I eventually got to my date, and I had my stoma on the 22nd of March last year. So it was a 4-month wait, which actually, considering I don't have cancer or inflammatory bowel disease, is actually really quite good.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so to then get a date, I think I had 20 days notice when I actually got the date.
Which is crazy. If you reflect on it now, do you think you're kind of happy with that, how that happened? Like, would you rather have less time to kind of get your head around it, or do you wish that you had a few more months to be like, right, I'm ready for this?
No, so it killed me. 20 days. 20 days was really hard, because you are just sitting on what you already know. Um, and obviously, I knew in the back of my mind it was going to happen, but it was effectively a countdown. It was 20 days of, okay, one day closer to having this major operation, not really knowing what to expect. With my last operation, which was really like super quick and easy, I got 5 days' notice. Much better. Much better. With the next one, if they said you're coming in tomorrow, I think I'd be fine with that. I can't. It's like dangling a carrot, even though it's not a very nice carrot. It's like a rotten one. It's still it is really really hard knowing the countdown. It just felt like such a long wait. So I actually think, for me personally, not knowing is better than knowing.
Yeah. No, I completely get that. And were you someone that likes to Google? A lot of people say, don't Google like what is going to happen to you. Did you want to know, like, please tell me exactly what is going to happen if I have a stoma? Did you kind of get advice from anyone, or did you kind of go into all of this kind of like a bit blind with it all?
So this will sort of go on to your topic of social media. So we're all guilty of joining a Facebook group, aren't we? We've all done it.
We
And
love a group.
that was the worst thing you could ever do, because constantly it was, how many days were you in hospital? When did you go back to work? When did you drive? What happened? And it was almost like a competition. It was, well, I was in for 2 weeks. Well, I was in for 4 weeks. And I had a tube up my nose. I didn't have a tube up my nose. It's this constant, like, backwards, forwards.
Yeah.
And people scare you. And there was a few times where I'd pop things in and say, I'm having my stoma surgery. Is there anything you'd recommend or not recommend? And it was, some of the advice was quite negative almost. I didn't find it helped at all. Instagram, however, is a very different community, I'd say. And everyone's really, really supportive. I spoke to 2 people that had slow transit with a stoma before I had my surgery, and I had mixed feedback about kind of whether it would work or not. Or kind of what their experiences were. So I went in with a bit of an open mind, because I'd been told by so many people it's not going to work. And I thought, well, what have I got to lose if I don't try? If I don't try, then I don't know. So I did a lot of Googling, and I did a lot of stalking on social media and trying to find things. And some of it helped and some of it didn't, but I think you're going to get that with anything.
Yeah.
And ultimately, Google it's not a reliable source, because you Google, how long am I going to be in hospital for after a stoma? And it goes for anything from 4 days to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So my biggest piece of advice would be, don't fully rely on everything you see on the internet. And everybody's experiences are different.
Absolutely.
They really are.
And how long did that surgery take? I mean, I'm assuming it is different for everyone. I don't know if there is like a standard of how long it does take to do, but yeah, do you know how long it took for you to have it done?
So the stoma, it took me longer to fall asleep and wake up than it did for me to have it. So I went into the anaesthetic room at like 12 o'clock. I had my epidural, because they gave me an epidural, like a spinal block, and at general anaesthetic, they gave me both. So I woke up, so I had the epidural, then I had the stoma, and I woke up about 3:30, I think. So I think altogether the surgery was about an hour.
Oh, okay.
Which isn't very long. For you to have your bowel removed, so I didn't have any bowel removed, but when you have your bowel removed, it's like 7+ hours, which is obviously significantly longer. But I had an epidural and it didn't work, so I woke up and I was kicking my legs in the air.
No.
And they were
That is
like,
terrifying.
why are you moving your legs? I know. I was like, I don't know,
I'm
but can I
here.
have some pain relief,
Yeah.
please? Yeah.
Oh,
Please give me some pain relief because that would be delightful.
bless you.
So yeah. Yes.
Well, that's an experience. That's one that you're always going to remember. How long was recovery? I'm assuming, you're still, it's only been just over a year. So I'm sure you're still kind of adapting to life every day with a stoma. But how long were you in hospital and what has recovery been like?
So I was in hospital for 9 days because on day, I don't know if it's day 3 or day 4, I had a paralytic ileus. So basically, my stoma completely stopped working, and I started vomiting shit.
Which sounds terrifying
Which,
as well.
which actually, if I look over the last 28 years of my life, I think it probably was the worst thing
Yeah.
I've ever been through in my life. It was horrific. I wouldn't recommend it. Really wouldn't recommend it. They do tell you to get up and walk. I never listened so much
Oh gosh, yeah, it
afterwards
sounds
because they
horrendous.
were like, "You need to move."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to have a tube up my nose to drain it all out, which was gross. But literally the day after that, the day that they took the tube out, or was it the day after they took the tube out? I think it was the day after they took the tube out, they sent me home. So in terms of pain, when you first have it done, it is uncomfortable because obviously they've cut your stomach muscles. So I had my surgery laparoscopically, which is like keyhole. So I had like 4 little cuts, which you can hardly see at all now. So I'm not left with like a big scar. So they, sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
No, don't be silly. It happens to me
So
daily. Don't you worry.
regardless,
Don't you worry.
so regardless of whether they do it keyhole or whether they do it open, they've still gone through layers of muscle. So if you imagine how it feels when you've done too many sit-ups, I mean, I've not done that for a very long
Yeah,
time,
can't
but
relate.
you
Can't relate.
it just feels like that, but worse. So when my lovely nurse tried to stand me up, I just hit the floor because it really hurt. And I was desperate to have the catheter out, but obviously you can't have the catheter out if you can't walk. So they basically said, if you want this catheter out, then you need to stand up. So that was brutal. It was brutal. I'd say the first, I mean, even by the time I got discharged, I was barely sitting on the toilet. I was standing up because it was easier than trying to sit. Because you don't realise how many muscles you use to do stuff. You really don't. Until those muscles have been like damaged in some way, whether it's by doing too much exercise or what, you don't realise. So to like squat and sit down is actually quite a lot.
Yeah.
I sound like a bit of a wimp, really, but
Beth,
by the time I got home,
absolutely not. Oh my days. I'm like, the list that you have been through of what you've had to go through, you do not sound like a wimp. Absolutely not.
Okay.
You don't at all.
So I don't know what I was going to say now. It's gone. Yeah. By the time I got home, I was lifting. So they say that you shouldn't lift anything heavier than like half kettle. I was lifting more than that, and I was okay. I was fine. I'm not saying do that, by the way. Please don't take my advice. But I felt stronger, is what I mean. I felt a lot stronger. And 4 weeks post-op, I was at the O2 at Mamma Mia, the party, dancing in a flowy dress. So I was still like uncomfortable and still had stitches in and stuff. But I just wanted to live my best life. And that's what I did. So I went back to work after it's either 6 or 7 weeks, which again is earlier than we anticipated, but I felt fine. And then I was back to doing most things quite quickly. I think I drove after, is it 3 or 4 weeks? Because they say you can't, like legally, you're not allowed to drive anything under whatever it was. I think it was 4 weeks. I drove after 4 weeks, but legally you can't drive before that. So I had to wait, even though I felt like I probably could. So I did that, and then went back to work. Everything was fine. So the cat's going to join, I think. You can join.
Let's
Yeah.
get them mic'd up. Oh, so
Look.
cute.
And actually, it's only been since like October. So from March to October, things were pretty cushy. And then I got to October and we started having some hiccups. So I started passing blood and mucus basically from my rectum and stool as well. So my surgeon sewed up, which sounds really dramatic, but it really isn't. I didn't even notice he'd done anything, to be fair. The loop that is attached to my large bowel, he sewed that up to try and stop anything from coming out. But he said it won't stop the blood and the mucus, but it will stop the stool from coming out. So he did that in October, and basically since then it's just been a bit of a nightmare. It's really common to get diversion colitis. It is just one of those things. The bowel doesn't like not having poo in it, so if it's just sat there, it's working overtime and it just doesn't like it. So I started some like suppositories for it that were meant to be kind of used as an anti-inflammatory. That didn't work. So I am now waiting patiently to speak to. I saw my surgeon, and he told me what my options are.
Mm.
So I'm just basically waiting to hear back from the gastro team
Yeah.
about what they want to do.
Yeah. It's a lot to go through and a lot to process. So mentally, this has obviously got to have affected you. How have you dealt with all of this? And yeah, everyone's story is obviously completely different, but this has been pretty much your whole 20s. It's been pretty much your entire life, but your 20s have been taken up a lot from this. So how have you got through it? And do you have any advice for others?
A lot of resilience, I think. My brain has not always been my friend. For many years, over half my life, I've struggled with my mental health. And ironically, it was almost quite, I don't know what the word is. I was so relieved when I had my stoma that I almost just felt lighter. And I anticipated waking up and be having all these emotions and being really unhappy and just thinking this is my life forever. And actually, it really wasn't that bad. So I had my blips, and I do still have my blips. I think we can only take so much, can't we,
Mm-hmm.
as humans? And I had lots of therapy for a very long time, and I take various medications and things like to keep me kind of okay. But I don't have therapy at the moment, and I am okay. Obviously, the prospect of having more surgery is scary, but equally, it's needed, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. It's just there's some days where you just sit back and you reflect and you just think, how has this even happened? How how is it that in the last year of my life it's changed so much? So it is crazy when I think about it. Um, my biggest piece of advice would be lean on people, um, whether that be people that you meet kind of online or whether it be people like friends and family. Definitely lean on people. I think people want to be there for you, so let them.
Mm-hmm.
There is going to be some people along the way that find it all a bit strange. It's not everyone's cup of tea hearing about poo all the time. Um, and I think, especially like when you have complications and you're poorly and you're in hospital for a while, it's very easy for people to take a step back because they just don't know how to manage. And that's okay too, but lean on the people that are there, lean on the people that do want to be there. So that would be my recommendation. Obviously, it is very traumatic and that is completely understandable. So if you do need to talk to somebody, then there's various different charities out there. There's Coloplast have a helpline, not Coloplast, Colostomy UK have a helpline. There's various different charities, and obviously there's the stoma nurses. They're all there to help you. So if you're struggling with the trauma of it, because it is traumatic, there is people you can phone and speak to about it. So I think that's really, really important as well.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really good advice. And do you have any advice for those that are starting on, their stoma journey in terms of like, was it a big adjustment for you in terms of what to wear? Were you quite worried about like leakages and stuff like that? Do you have advice, for people that are just starting on that?
So for me, I've always worn clothes that are a little bit bigger for me. I like baggy clothes, so it's not like I went from wearing really skimpy clothes to baggy t-shirts. I was already doing that anyway. Obviously there's certain things that I see now and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'd wear that. But that's my choice. I know lots of people that flaunt their bag, rightly so, and they wear whatever they want, and that's absolutely fine. Whereas obviously for me, it's just personal choice, really. I wear what I want. Leaks absolutely terrified me. The first time I left the house and I went to Asda, I took a bag that was it was like this big. It must have had about 20 stoma bags in it, I'm not even joking, just in case. I was absolutely terrified, and spare clothes and everything, like I took the full works. Now, the bag I take out with me when I leave the house is about that big. And it fits everything I need in it. I don't take spare clothes. I'm a rebel. But touch wood, I'm not. Paloma's not too naughty. The worst time is overnight. If I'm gonna have a leak, it's generally overnight, which is fine because I can deal with that. I sleep on like a washable incontinence pad thing. It's just like a black square, and that just makes me feel a little bit better, just in case. So I take it wherever I go. So if I stay anywhere overnight, I take that, and if I don't take it, I panic. What else did you ask? Leaks, clothes.
Yeah, I guess just like adjusting to life with a stoma, if you had any advice, anything that has gone really well for you with it, or if there is things that have gone wrong with it and you'd advise others to do. But I think you've offered some good advice there.
My biggest tip, well, I've got several, but one of my biggest tips, especially in the hot weather, is flange extenders. So they're called bananas, or boomerangs, and they're just like a C shape, and they're like tape that go around the um like the base plate of the stoma, just as extra. It's just additional kind of security, really. So if I'm going anywhere, well, I do put them on every day. Every time I change my bag, I put them on, because in the summer you sweat under your bag, like really quite. It can be very, very sweaty, and without that, the bag would be off. So if you're doing anything that's going to make you sweat, flange extenders, and they have saved me from having like really bad leaks. Because they just keep it underneath, which obviously isn't good for your skin, but it's definitely worth doing.
Yeah, I love that. And what would you say are some of your most asked questions now that you've got Paloma in your life? Do you have people that ask you kind of the same things all the time, especially like on social media? I feel like people are so nosy, for one, about stuff. But yeah, do you have kind of those common questions that people ask?
So one of them is, so do you wee normally? I get that a lot.
Brilliant.
So do you wee then? Do you wee then? Yes, I do. I think it's confusing because the more you drink, the more output you have. So to other people, they're thinking, well, if you have more output because you're drinking lots, then you're not weeing. So I do get what they mean. So I get that question. I get Does it hurt? Can you feel when you're going to the toilet? The answer is no. You have no idea. And the same applies for like wind coming out as well. Like you just hear it, you have no warning. Just like brilliant. Thank you very much for embarrassing me in this really quiet GP surgery. It's so true though. It's just like, really? Do you have to do that now? Does it hurt? Do you wee? Do you know when you're doing a poo?
I guess for me, as someone that hasn't been through it, was it hard to kind of, once you've had that surgery and see that you've had a stoma? I've known from following some people on social media, not, I don't know what the word is, not like they're creeped out by it, but find it hard to first look at it. How did you feel when you first had to look at it and change it? Was it something that you were quite afraid to do, or yeah, how was that experience?
I really didn't want to look. I'm glad that I woke up in recovery and I'd already had a leak because they'd put a flat bag on and I don't have a flat stomach. um, so I had to see it, but thank God I was obviously well and truly away with the fairies because I'd had everything possible. So in a way, I'm glad that I was away with the fairies when I first saw it because that made it a lot easier to cope with. However, I don't know. There was days where I just wouldn't change it because I just didn't want to know. I just didn't want to see it. And even now, sometimes I'm just like, I just don't want to do it. Obviously, it looks better now, but it is like, so if you think about it too much, it does like feel very strange. But yeah, no, it was hard, and I know that I think everyone's had an element of fear when looking at it afterwards. Um, I think I felt a lot more. I was a lot more worried when I still had stitches in because I was worried that I was going to pull them out and then it was all going to like I don't know. I don't know what I thought was going to happen. I don't know. It's not like my intestines were going to fall out of anymore, but I just was worried that the stitches were going to come out before they were ready to come out. So I felt like even like cleaning it and stuff, the stoma nurses would come round and be like scrubbing it, and I'd be like, "Please don't do that." Um, and they were like, "It's fine. You're just going to have to do it." And I was like, "I don't want to. I'd rather not. Thank you." So yes, it's been a bit of a journey.
Yes, of course. And what has it been like working with a stoma? Has that kind of changed? What was your job title again? You work in the NHS, don't you? So I'm assuming, you were quite a busy girl anyway. So has it affected your work life? Like, yeah, what's that all been like?
So I work in palliative care. So the pace is actually not as intense as working in a hospital. Um, that doesn't mean that we don't have busy days, but it's just different. It's not as physically demanding as working in a hospital. So I do the odd shift in hospitals in various different departments, but my primary job is working in palliative care. So they've been really, really good with reasonable adjustments and various different things. If there is a child that's too heavy, then everyone will chip in and help me. So yeah, and if there's anything I don't feel like I can do, then somebody will help me or will do it instead. So I'm very, very lucky with work, and actually I've had a couple of leaks at work, and I just say to my colleagues, can someone just watch my child so that I can go and change my bag?
Yeah,
And they're fine. They're fine.
no, that's good.
They're just like, yeah, take your time, don't worry, it's all good, don't worry. So yeah, I'm very lucky.
No, and I
Very,
think you
very
need that,
lucky.
don't you? Like a supportive working team around you as well that also
Oh,
understand it and
definitely.
get it. And my other question for you, because I am looking at the time, I'm like, for God's sake, it's me today that's running out of time. I could speak to you for ages, Beth. So honestly, if you feel like there's more to your story that you want to share, we can definitely pick this up again. But where did Paloma come from? Did you kind of already have a name for her when you first found out you needed a stoma? Did she come out of the blue? Like, yeah, what is the history of, well, yeah, the story of Paloma?
It's going to sound really cringy. So, I absolutely love Paloma Faith,
Yeah,
and it just makes sense. Like Paloma the Stoma, like it
I love
sounds
it.
so good.
I love it.
Um, and then someone said to me, "Oh, because you've got to have like faith," and I was like, "Yeah, that's very true." So it just sort of, it just flowed, and I just thought, I can't call it anything other than Paloma.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, Paloma.
Love it.
And Paloma feels like a person. Like my friends talk about Paloma as if she is a
She is,
person,
yeah.
whenever anyone says she, I laugh so much, because obviously I'm like, she has no manners, and I think, oh, I sound absolute mental, but actually everyone's saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
No, I love that.
but yeah, no, it's a good name. I think it's a
Yeah.
good name.
No.
I've heard some weird names, like some really weird names.
Oh, you're gonna have to tell me now.
And
You
it's
gotta give
all,
me some examples. You can't just leave me like
oh,
that.
I can't do that because I don't know who's listening. I've heard some really good names, really good names.
Okay, well, you can message me the ones that you're not allowed to say because I'm interested now.
Okay, that's fine. But yeah, no, there's some good ones. There's some very good ones. But yeah, I'm gutted you've got to go, but it just
I
means we'll have to do
know.
another
No,
one.
we have to. Oh, we have to. I told you because Beth was saying to me, "Do you think I can get it done in an hour?" And I was like, "Well, you might do." Most people like, yeah, you can talk for absolutely hours about all of these things. So yeah, if you want to pick it up, we can definitely do that. But I still think you've offered some amazing advice, and it's a really interesting story. And I'm so sorry for everything you have had to go through. It is crazy all the stuff that you've been through in your 20s alone. But I'm hoping life is going to look up now that you've got Paloma. Is looking a little bit better. But yeah, thank you so much, Beth. Honestly, I know this won't be the last time that we talk because I feel like there's still so much to cover. And I hope, well, I know this podcast has been chaotic and that is fully my responsibility, but I hope it hasn't put you off future podcast episodes that you do because
Oh, definitely not. I love this. This is my first experience, and I'm obsessed
just a
already.
little
I'm
chat.
like, when can we do
Yeah.
another one?
Should we do it again tomorrow? But no,
Absolutely.
you've been amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You're a superstar.